Come on, keep it up.
I can't, you're killing me.
We're having an earthquake. Tell him, send it and tell him we're having an earthquake.
Man, are you sitting there? Hi, this is Lance Winkell. Most of you know I'm Larry Winkell's son, and so I'm talking to you from my backyard in St. Joseph, Missouri, because it's one of the most lovely places I can imagine. A beautiful backyard, and there's the house. So there's a lead-in to a story about Larry. But I don't want to dawn too much on sad stories, but I moved into this house about 2 years ago, and due to his condition, Larry was never able to actually to come and see it. He asked about it quite often. I showed pictures. It's a little bit of a sad memory though, because you get a place, and he came to my condo in California often. In fact, one of the funny things is every time that I would head out to go see my mom's side of the family for Christmas or the holidays, I'd suddenly notice that somebody had shown up at my condo, and Larry would come to my condo to have a little bit of a California break in the middle of December. Ironically, I had gone through a breakup and changed my door locks, and he showed up in California and was gave me a call and said, something's wrong, the door locks aren't working. Well, I'd forgotten to send a key. I didn't even think about it, but it had been many months. And so fortunately, Ellen was only a little ways away, but it became a little bit dramatic when he'd come out to California and no way to get into the condo. I'm gonna cut to another view here fairly quickly. There's something sitting right over here in the little growing bed that I wanted to kind of cite for you guys. So I'm gonna pause this and we'll be right back.
Hey everyone, so we're making these videos, and I'm not sure how everyone else just starts their video. As you can see, I'm in the car, which makes sense. I just got off work. I'm a girl on the go, so we're just gonna roll with it. And it's quiet in here. At the house, it's busy with the kids. Okay, so memories of Larry. I'm gonna go back to the 4th grade. We did a trip to California, and we had a great time. It was a great week. I do remember Soda Pop, the cat. I think that was the name. And some of the things we were told is to be careful what we leave around, because he or she, I'm not sure if it was a boy or a girl cat, like to chew on things. And when we're sleeping, I think it stayed in a room. There's something about the cat we had to watch out for, or don't let it out of the house or something. But overall, I remember that trip. Larry was active runner. He was active with just exercise and out and about. We just did a lot of fun things on that particular trip. Some other memories, when we would go to the Ozarks every May. We went for years, and we'd be driving through the night, and it was more mom, it wasn't necessarily myself, but she would call Larry in the middle of the night as we're driving, because in California it was a 2-hour time difference, and he was always up late. So we'd always have phone calls with Larry on the way down. He would keep us more, I guess. We would chat with mom or dad, but keep, our cars cruising down the road with conversation. But we all know Larry liked to tell a good joke. Now, I'm not sure about you guys, but I didn't always catch on to these jokes. I tried. And so I got to the point where he would tell me the joke, and even if I didn't get it, I just laughed anyway. So he always had a joke to tell. One year, he gave us all a bunch of left-handed gloves, winter gloves. Not sure if we just didn't need the right hands, but he gave us a bunch of left-handed gloves, and I don't even know why. He was responsible for all of the fans at the cabin. He just knew how to get things. He had connections, right? I do know one time he showed up with a bunch of crock pot inserts. Now, mom was thrilled about this because I don't recall anything ever fit. Like, they didn't have the holders, they were just the porcelain inserts, but she was determined to find a home for each one of those. So he had a knack for finding some really good stuff. I would say another fun memory is we had grandma with us for that summer, 2006 I believe it was, and everybody took turns coming to the house, staying with Grandma. So that was really fun. Not only a good bonding time with Grandma, but just with all the family that came and went. We got close with a lot of you guys when you guys came and stayed with us. That was a, a sad time because the end of summer, Grandma had passed, but yet a very encouraging time just with family. Now, Lawrence, I'm gonna bring you into this. Lawrence was always game for a haircut. Every time he'd come up, I was always giving him a haircut. He was cool with that. Larry was very particular about his hair. I never could talk him into a haircut. So, I would say 2 years ago, we were at the cabin. So not last summer, the one before, or it could have been last summer. Anyway, I finally got Larry. I gave him a haircut for the first time in 20 some years. And it was fun because he was still really particular, not a lot off the sides, just a little bit off the top, but right, his niece got to finally cut his hair. And Jared, we're not going to talk about your first haircut. That was an experience unlike no other. Now, I've come a little further in my 20 some years, but I'm sure he's got comments right now. The first haircuts were always a little sketchy. Anyway, so I guess going on that note, yeah, Larry was a great guy. Great uncle. Again, always had a fun joke, always had a good story. Just personality was awesome, right? It is hard to be in these moments and know that he's not with us. He was always at the events, the parties, right? You name it. So, yeah. Not sure if everyone else's videos are uplifting or sad moments, but there's a little both, I guess, in this one. So I'm glad for today. I'm glad that we have this time to all get together and again to just be family. So that is important. I'm going to end with that, and yeah, let's have a great day. So memories of Larry, those are a few I wanted to share. All right, thanks. Bye.
Hello, everybody. This is Ken Andre.
And I'm Lana Andre. Been friends with Larry since I was 19 years old, and he was about 21. He was a neighbor across the trailer court in North Liberty, and we became fast friends. I was in X-ray school, and he was working on his degree, and he would come to visit me up at the X-ray department, the time of the mini skirts, and he'd go, hi, Lan, how you doing? He's looking at all the cute girls in the mini skirts.
Yeah, I met Larry through Lana in 1975, and he was in the water conditioning business, and I had no business training or experience, and so I was fascinated by his stories of working and so forth, and also growing up on the farm in western Iowa. But one of the great things, and we always would joke about it, is his passion about getting the best deal he could on anything and everything. And it became, in our circle of friends, known as a Winkle deal. If you could really get a good deal, and I mean a good deal, it was a Winkle deal.
Yeah, did it qualify as a wink? Did you get a good deal, or did you get a Winkle deal?
So, and we did a lot of stuff together, and some of the best times we had was when he had that 28-foot GM motorhome, and he would drive us to some of the away games, Iowa football games. And I remember at least 2 different places we went, Minnesota and Champaign-Urbana, University of Illinois. And on one of our outings, but there were more outings than just those 2. On one of those outings, for some reason, he wanted to go to an ATM. And so he drove this thing through the narrow entrance to an ATM. And there wasn't more than a half an inch of clearance on either side. And he was just showing off and so proud. He was driving that thing.
And we're all dying.
Oh.
He had a van full of us. And probably on that same trip, the heater wasn't working, and it was to Minnesota. So he rigged up a space heater. And wouldn't you know, it caught on fire. We're rolling down the road, and there's a fire in the motor home. Oh, gosh. He got put out, and everybody was fine, but that's a typical Larry.
And the other thing, I mean, it was funny and a little bit frustrating, but boy, he loved to take time to make his hair look just perfect. And we're waiting and waiting. Larry's in the bathroom. Come on, Larry, let's go. We got to go. We got a reservation and stuff. So, and the other thing is, and he was busy, and so he was always, and we lived in the Quad Cities, so he would come from Iowa City, and he had a lot of things on his plate. So, but he would show up late. So we finally adopted a policy, and we would tell him that everything is going to start a half an hour early, so that he would only end up being a half an hour late.
And it worked.
So anyway, yeah, good friend, lots of good times, great memories.
Yes, and we could go on, but I think we'll stop there and we look forward to seeing the video of everybody else.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
My memories of Larry are going to be done in a little bit of a different format, and I tried to write a poem with some memories. So here we go. Memories are keepsakes of time that live forever in the heart, and it's from those well-loved memories my thoughts of Larry will start. There was a time in my life I never thought would be. Alone with two little boys was a difficult time for me. Trying to navigate through some lonely days, you helped me cope in so many ways. Each day you would give me a call. I probably didn't have anything new to tell. You did this for the longest time, and this brightened my days so well. One day you had an offer we just couldn't refuse. We bought our tickets, packed our bags. A needed trip to Huntington Beach would soon be within our reach. What an exciting time for Nathan and Josh. Right from the start, you made it fun. Pool toys were waiting for them. You had bought them, each one. We spent hours at Disneyland. You were videotaping us all the way. I'm sure you got tired because that was a big camera back in the day. You packed our coolers daily with sandwiches, and who could forget the Universal Studios tour? Trips to the ocean, swimming in your pool. We tired the boys out each day for sure. Remember how you taught the boys to always walk on the white or yellow parking lot lines? That way, no oils on their shoes and onto your car carpets would you find. That tip left an impression on me all these years. I'm still walking on those lines to this day, avoiding a lot of spills along the way. Whether the boys remember to do it, I can't say. I remember the night we went dumpster diving, of course, in a very upscale California neighborhood. You said people throw a lot of good stuff away the night before their garbage day. On one of our walks, we found a car for sale. You thought the Ford Taurus station wagon would do the boys and I well. To Iowa, you would drive it back. The Taurus would now be mine. If only we knew what was coming, a week or two in time. Your travel was going well. You were cruising along with no trouble until that fateful moment at the gas station. And now we had a locked up transmission. After an unexpected delay overnight, it all worked out okay. Some mechanics got right to work on it, and you were soon on your way. I could go on with other memories we made, but these for now will do. They will always stay in my heart, forever keepsakes of time about you.
Okay, everyone, we're back. We got the kids. We're at the cabin, and we're going to put some input with some jokes. We know Larry liked to tell some jokes, so here we go. You can go first.
My joke is, what do bees use to comb their hair?
What do bees use to comb their hair?
A honeycomb.
A honeycomb. That's a good one. That's Andon's joke. Jocelyn, what do you got?
Why was the library the tallest room in the school?
I don't know. Why was the library the tallest room in the school?
Because it had the most stories.
It had the most stories. That's a good one. It's just a mosquito. Okay. And Caleb, do you have a joke for today?
Why did the mama corn? No. Why did the baby corn say to the mama corn? Where's popcorn?
Where's popcorn? What did the baby corn say to the mama corn?
Where's popcorn?
All right, everybody. Hope you're having a great day. We will all see you again. Bye.
Adios.
Hey there, everyone. Part 2, as I said, was going to be right back over here, and it's these little lilies. I do not have a green thumb, but my dad did. And it may seem funny to think about this, but it's something that I always noticed. My dad would keep cards, presents, and gifts from friends, and at some point years ago, somebody gifted him with a plant. Anyone who was in the water conditioning system's office would know this plant because it was this large tree. I always thought it was fake. Big green petals, but most of it just looked like a piece of like brown plastic cord or cable that would just spread all over. It was kind of like somewhere between a bonsai and a hose. And he'd water it, almost every day I was there, I'd see him water it. Now, that might just be that I was there on the specific days when he was watering it. But this was a plant that he had been given 20 or 30 years prior. And he watered that thing and took care of it all the way up until through COVID. In fact, I think it was only a few months ago that we finally had to get rid of it. It had finally dried out because he had been moved into the nursing facility and hadn't been every day to water it. But for the remainder of the time, even through as Parkinson's was advancing, my dad kept that plant a priority. And it's something I always remembered about him. It was always this plant that was there. And it wasn't always the most appealing thing, but it was something that he was just grateful for. And it was just like a pet, probably meant to him about as much as Soda, his cat in California, did. And the reason this lily reminds me of this is, as I said, I don't have a green thumb, but I was given this Easter a year and a half ago, and I think it died before I even got home. Like the heat of the car and moving around, coming back from northern Iowa, it came back and was almost completely disintegrated. And I tried to water it. Finally, I just moved it out here into the planter. It's now sitting amongst a bunch of, there's a tree next to it that's growing in and a bunch of strangleweed. But this is something that I thought was just a goner. Might as well just plant the bulb back here in the back and see what happens. And I came out today and saw this thing, multiple bulbs. It's thriving. It's 2 feet tall and just healthy as can be. And so it reminded me of that plant that was always in my dad's office. So, the bugs are enjoying it, the pollinators and everything else. But I always really appreciated that my dad would take care of these plants and gifts that people took. And that included things like I mentioned, the cards that he got. He had always said to me, I don't need gifts, all I want is a card. Just give me a card, Lance. And sometimes it made it really hard to find a gift for him, because what do you get for him? He wanted to be around his friends. He wanted to travel. There will be a lot of stories, I'm sure, that we'll be sharing today, and then the months ahead. But I appreciate everyone for taking part in this, for the others that are sharing their memories of Larry. Hopefully by the time this is done, wherever he's at, he can tell everyone stories about, when I died, they had to give me 3 funerals. They had to give me 3 memorials. That's how much they appreciated me. And so, he'd love a story like that. So I think that's what kind of the spirit of what we're doing here is. But this flower this morning was kind of like the thing that reminded me of that plant in his office. And so thank you for listening to my TED Talk. Thank you. Bye.
Hello, everyone. This is Jared Winkle. I am Larry's
nephew, we'll just, to keep it short, his favorite nephew. And I'm standing here with a backdrop of Schneider Trucks and Trailers. And for those of you who don't know, I work for Schneider National, a trucking company. I work in the office here in Green Bay. And every time I would see Larry or talk with him or even occasionally get a text, he always led off with, "Man, I saw another Schneider truck broke down on the side of the road." And he'd always want to know, why was that truck broke down? Now, Schneider has like 15,000 trucks, 60,000 trailers, and so of course I had no idea why a particular truck or trailer was broken down. And he would tease me to no end about why I couldn't fix the trucks and trailers. At one point I worked in maintenance and he knew that. Why they were breaking down all the time, what's wrong with this company I work for. He never sees anybody else broke down on the side of the road, and so it was our joke and something we often had a good time laughing about. And without fail, Larry gave me a hard time. So Larry, we miss you. Appreciate the humor and joy that you brought in our lives, and just all the other antics that were included and shown my way as a nephew that I know that you loved, cared about, and thought about often. So we miss you, Larry.
Yeah, a few things about Larry and I as we grew up together. We first started out at, when he got older, and I did too, we would go up to Lake Okoboji and do a lot of water skiing and fishing, and well, not so much fishing at that time. We did more playing around than anything else. And then over the time, I moved here to Muscatine, and we lived over on 9th Street. And Larry.
Hello, everybody. We're down here at Clear Lake this weekend and getting ready for Larry's celebration of life. And I was asked to have a memory or two to bring up here for you. So, Larry, he was always kind of the wheeler dealer. And one time I can remember this, we were walking bean fields, and we were getting $1 an hour to walk the bean fields, pulling cockaburs. And so we worked all week for this guy. I'd tell you his name, but I can't remember his name anymore. But anyway, we were just kids yet. So we were end of the week came, and he says to us, "Well, you guys did a good job." He says, "I'm going to. I've been to Sioux City, the other in West Sioux City," and he says, "I bought a bunch of fireworks. And I was going to ask you if you wanted to take your work out in fireworks or if you want me to pay you the cash." So Larry says, "Well," he says, "how many fireworks we're going to get?" And I said, he says, "Well, I got each a grocery sack full of firecrackers that I'll give you, each sack of your own." "Oh, that'd be good," Larry said. So he made the deal. And we took, each one of us, our sack of fireworks and went home. Well, Dad come home that night and he says, "Did so-and-so pay you for those weeding all those bean fields?" "Well, yeah," I said, "kind of." And he says, "Well," he says, "that's good then." He says, "Where's the money?" "Well," he says, "we took it out in fireworks." Oh my goodness, that was a bad deal there. But he said, anyway, Dad says, "Get in the car." So we got in the car and we sat there each with our sack of fireworks. And we went back over to this guy's place. And he says, "I want you to take the fireworks back," he says, "and give the kids cash." And he says, "Well, I offered it to him either way. I would do it either way," he says. So he says, "I'll do that." So he gave us the cash, and then he turned around and gave us each a whole bag of firecrackers. So we got firecrackers and the money. So Larry was the one that was a wheeler dealer. I can remember sitting beside him in the car on the way home, and he goes, "Look what we got now. Boy, we made a double run here," he says. I thought that was always pretty good of him, But That was one of the things he did. Then we had another time where we were sitting by the kitchen table. Most of the whole family was outside, except for Larry and I. We were sitting there and we got in an argument about something. And he took the ketchup bottle and unscrewed the cap off of it. And of course, back in those days, they were all made out of metal. And he took that cap and slung it at me and bounced it off my head, and it went up and hit the ceiling. And when it hit the ceiling, it splattered ketchup all over the place. So then we got up on the table and tried to wipe it off. And all we did was smear it. It just looked like a big blood stain up there on the top of the thing there. And about a week later, it wasn't very long, and my mom was sitting there one night after supper. She happened to look up the ceiling, and what in the world happened to this? So we got in trouble for that. But anyway, that was some of the stories that a couple things that I brought to mind back in the days. How we did get along good, though. We always helped each other out. So, well, that's about all I've got to say about it. So, that's it.
The memory that I wanted to share about Larry was when Josh and I were kids when our dad died. It was obviously a really rough time, and the whole family was going through a lot. And I remember very specifically, close to that time, we had taken like a family trip. We road trip across the country to go to California, and we'd visited him before and had a vacation together, and it was really memorable. But that memory was shared as a family with our dad, and when our dad passed, it was it's hard to look back on that memory with joy, and it's just such a close time frame to be filled with hurt and stuff. And Larry, he opened up his home, invited us out, and just took us kids around Universal Studios, Disneyland, all that stuff, all those things that a kid could lose their mind over. But it was a distraction that was so welcome during a time that was so hard. He just really cared about us and reached out to us during that time. And I know that was such a huge help for my mom. And I'm sure it was great to have that experience with her kids on the other side of so much grief and anguish, being on her own. And I'm sure that throughout that time too, he was such a support to her throughout that. So, I mean, he was a brother and he was a uncle who, took the time to extend his generosity and his hospitality to us, and showed us a time that we wouldn't have expected, or that I wouldn't have expected somebody to do. And it meant a lot. Even to this day, I remember it so vividly and clearly. It was such a blessing.
Hey, it's Joel here, and I'd like to let you guys know some stuff about Larry that I remember. One of them is that we usually go and have these big get-togethers at the lake, or anytime we have get-togethers. He'd always like to bring an apple pie every single time. He loved apple pie. You can always count on Larry bring apple pies every single time. Also, another thing I remember too about Larry was that when we have our get-togethers, Christmas get-togethers, you can always figure out which gift he always brought. It's either a thing from Connecticut or it's a small item, because usually you have to bring it on the plane. So it'd always be a small item, or he'd wrap something from Connecticut. But my I remember one year back in 2006 when Grandma was back at Mom and Dad's, and she was there, and Larry had to come over and help visit, and take care of her. Well, one day he was gone for a couple hours, and I'm like, "Where's Larry?" Well, here we find out that Larry's down about a quarter of a mile down by the church with his phone talking to somebody. Must be his girlfriend, who we don't know. I don't know who it was, just business, whatever. So I'm like, well, this is kind of odd. I find out that he needed to get reception for this he needs good phone reception. So I decided, well, the next time he shows up, I'm going to make him something. So I made him this nice, good looking hat. Would you demonstrate here, please? This nice little tinfoil hat that I made for Larry. So the next time he just have to walk down the end of the road instead of have to walk a mile and a half down. So that's kind of what I was trying to, I remember about Larry. He was a great uncle. I remember everything about him. He was good. We're gonna miss him a lot. So.
Hey there. Well, this is Lance Winkel, Larry's son, with a ridiculous hat. And it's meant to kind of evidence. I found this in my dad's back of his business of water conditioning systems the last time I was in Iowa City about a week ago. And it became one of my favorite things ever, because why does he have this? And I can only imagine that it was something that he had gotten during one of his trips. Most of you know Larry. Larry was a jokester. One of the great ones is the white elephant gift that I know. I think it first got passed off to Maryland, but it was underwear that was like this big. And I remember us finding, having to go through some multiple malls to find the largest pair of underwear, and no one knew who it came from. I'm going to let the secret out of the bag. After all these years, that underwear that went back and forth across the family started with Larry, in case you didn't know.
Hi, my memories of Uncle Larry have been when we were younger, camping together. He had a couple of motorhomes, if I remember right. He fixed them up and then brought them camping. I remember it was cool because he had air conditioning in his camper before that was even a common thing. I remember him always having cool cars, like the two-seater, which I don't even know the name of, but the little fun two-seater gray car when Lance was little. I remember him always having a fun smile and a joke. And probably over the last 30 years, at any get-together we had, he always had brought a big bottle of Connecticut water, and how he always came with like a ham to the lake, and pumpkin pie was always a staple that he would stop and pick up for Story City get-togethers or at the lake. As a kid, it always seemed like he lived this dream lifestyle of working, having a business in Iowa City, but living in California and being able to do his business back and forth, even before there was internet. So that just always seemed to be a cool thing. One particular memory in the last probably 10 years was we were at the lake, and it must have been the Father's Day get-together, and he asked the kids to clean his car out, his BMW, and lo and behold, they found lots of change and even some $5 and $10 bills stuck in the seats that they got to keep. So they were very excited, and that was always a fun memory I remember hearing the kids talk about in the last little while. So, yep, Uncle Larry will be missed. His bright smile and his easygoing attitude when we were all together.
My name is Charlie, and Larry was my brother-in-law, married to his favorite sister. And a memory we have is one year when Larry got the big BMW, that 7 Series, and he brought it over to Clear Lake when we were all together, and had a little trouble with the car alarm because every so often it would start honking. The horn would honk and beep, beep, beep. And so Larry'd go down the street to the car, and whatever he had to do, he got it to stop. And he'd come back, and wasn't long, and horn was honking again. And he'd go back to the car, and it got to the point where it just happened so much that everybody just started to laugh when the horn started honking. Well, that's Larry and Larry's car. And so that was kind of funny, but it stuck with us because every time we'd hear a horn honk on an alarm, we'd always say, "Is that Larry?" And so, in fact, just the other day we were somewhere, and somebody's alarm went off, and we both looked at each other and, "Is that Larry here?" And so we had a good laugh about that. That'll live on forever for us. But anyway, that's one of many memories of Larry. Just funny how that happened, and something that we hang on to. So, is that Larry?
Hi everyone, my name is Ellen Smiley, and I was Larry's long-distance girlfriend for many years. So I wanted to just talk just for a couple minutes about my experiences with Larry and who Larry was in my life. It's not coincidental that behind me is an electric smoker. That's what that big device is right there. And this kind of figures into the Larry experience. So I'll get back to that in a minute. But first, I'd like to tell you about how I met Larry. I actually met him many years ago in 1993. He was living here in Orange County, California, which is where I live. And this time came around when ballroom dancing was just a very popular hobby. I don't know if you remember that, but lots of people were wanting to learn ballroom dancing. And I think there was a television show that featured ballroom dancers. So I decided that I wanted to learn how to dance the waltz and the foxtrot. And I signed up for a ballroom dancing class. I showed up to the class, and the instructor's very first set of instructions was everybody needs to pair up. Well, I looked around the room, and the ratio of women to men in that room was about 2 to 1. So I thought, oh my goodness, how am I going to find a partner in this? But before I could even strategize, this very attractive man sidled up to me and he said, "Would you like a partner?" And that was Larry, and that's how we met. And we dated from that point on until he returned to Iowa. And then even after that, we continued to see each other, and we have seen each other and known each other for all of these years. Larry was always just such a wonderful person in my life, not only because he was a nice and a good person and a fun person to be with, but he also was just so very, very helpful to me. He caught me at a time in my life when I had just purchased a house. And it was a beautiful house. I'm living in it today. It's on a hill. It's got an ocean view, but it was just a wreck when I first bought it. It was built in 1965, that's a long time ago by Southern California standards. And when I first moved in, I didn't have any working plumbing in the house. I had to brush my teeth in the front yard using the hose the first night that I lived there. But Larry just came to my rescue right from day one. He offered to help me fix things, and he did. He fixed all those sinks. And he just did one project after another, just out of the kindness of his heart, to help me live in that house. His big accomplishment, I think, still the envy of the neighborhood, is this rain barrel system that he set up, where he used old water tanks from his business, and he fashioned PVC piping that would bring rainwater down from the roof of my house into each one of these tanks. And the water just cascades from one tank to the next. And I now can collect 1,500 gallons of rainwater, which is really valuable in an area like mine where we have a drought all the time and water bills that run about $200 a month. And that was Larry, just being creative and being helpful. And he wasn't afraid of manual labor at all. In fact, I have a rental unit, and one time I had a tenant leave who was a bachelor, and a very messy bachelor. And Larry came in and he helped me clean that entire place. And Larry single-handedly cleaned the oven. And let me tell you, after somebody has used an oven for 5 years and never cleaned it, that oven is a mess. And Larry just cheerfully cleaned the whole thing for me. He was just such a nice and a wonderful person in my life. And more than just being helpful, Larry was a good person. And that's really what I value the most, is that he was a moral person, a good person. He wanted to do the right thing. And that's a rare find these days. But Larry was that kind of a man, and he was generous and fun-loving and funny and sociable and helpful and considerate. He was a big part of my life. and I'm really going to miss him. There aren't very many people like him, and I will always think of him. And I want to get back to that smoker behind me, because that was another one of Larry's projects. Larry loves pulled pork, so I decided that I would buy that and make pulled pork for him. So I came home one day with this box, and Larry came over, and he said, I will assemble this for you. So he spread all the parts out on my living room floor, and he spent hours putting the whole thing together. And in the end, I said, oh my gosh, it's wonderful. It looks beautiful. It's perfect. And he paused for a second and he said, well, it's actually not perfect, because when I came to the end of the process, I discovered that there's this one piece, and I have no idea what it is or where it goes. And then he said, so we should probably go out and buy pulled pork, maybe not use this system. And that was my Larry. Always sweet and funny and helpful. And as I say, I'm going to miss him a lot. So I thank all of you for giving me this opportunity just to talk for a couple minutes about Larry. And I hope that as you talk about him, you'll know that I'm out here in Orange County, California, thinking about him also. So have a great weekend with each other. Bye-bye.